Hey, what's up? How you doing? I recently did a video similar to this about if you want to be a film major or go to film school. So it might seem a bit odd that I'm doing the same thing with journalism because obviously I am a film major if I made that video, but journalism is actually one of my minors, and ironically I'm more involved in my school's journalism program than I am the film program. Through high school and college I just have a lot of background in journalism and news-based stuff, so I know a lot about it, at least at a college level. So I'm going to tell you some stuff that I think is good to know if you're interested in being a journalism student, whether it be a major, a minor, maybe switching your major, whatever. Just if you're interested in journalism, hopefully these are some things that you would find helpful to know. So some of these are just random tips and things that I think is important to know, and then some of them are more major points. And the biggest thing I think that's important to know was also a tip with the film video, but again, it's something that I think everyone should do with their majors, and that is to find a club or something that is in the journalism program, somehow related to journalism, and be involved in that. Because being involved is one of the best ways to build your skills up, and a lot of times the clubs are what are going to be more hands-on as opposed to just a classroom setting. That way you really get a feel for if you like this or not, if you're good at it or not, and what you need to work on, what you're best at. And also it's a good resume builder if you are involved in a club. That's a good thing to be able to say to employers. As opposed to just having a degree in a field, you can also say that you were in clubs, and hopefully you'll get internships as well to also help build your resume up. So with the clubs, be looking for different things advertised inside the College of Journalism at your university. Newspapers, television stations, magazines, anything like that. Hopefully there's a club like that at your university. Join as many as you want or as many as you have time for. Really immersing yourself in the different options is what you're gonna find what you love, what you don't really like, what you're good at, what you're not really good at, what you're interested in. Those kind of things are what you find usually through clubs. Classes also help. You take a lot of different classes and you learn a lot of different things and skills in those classes, but I'm telling you, clubs are a huge deal and I definitely recommend that you join them. Another thing that I talked about in the film video that also relates here is probably a more obvious one, which is if you're not in school yet, be looking at universities that have strong journalism programs. See if the professors are well known, have name recognition in the field. If people graduating from there are doing well in the field and are going out and being journalists and being successful. See if they have a lot of hands-on classes or if they don't do a whole lot of hands-on stuff, because hands-on is one of the most important things I think you can get out of a college degree. Sitting in a classroom and learning is great, but getting out and actually touching the equipment and shooting stuff and putting together a news broadcast or a newspaper or whatever sort of journalism you're interested in, getting in front of the camera, behind it, whatever, that's what's going to really help you build your skill set. So be looking for hands-on programs. Now let's talk about what you learn as a journalism major. You learn actually a lot of different skills. You might not think that being a MMJ, which is a multimedia journalism major, would need a ton of different skills, because you might just be interested in reporting, being in front of the camera, or producing, or running a camera, or directing, or whatever. You might have the one idea in your head of what you want to do, but actually you have to learn all of the different skills involved in journalism, at least at a base level. You don't have to take advanced classes of skills that you don't want to learn, at least from what I know in my university you don't. And you get to find what you're good at and what you like. The skills that you'll learn, one of them is how to run a camera, and that's actually one of the bigger skills that you have to master. A lot of classes require camera operation of some kind. There's a lot of multimedia in journalism. Even if you're just interested in print, you're not interested in broadcast, you still have to do probably photography. So you'll probably have to take a class that requires photography. You might even have to take a class that requires videography, even though that's not what you're interested in. You're also going to learn skills such as reporting in front of the camera, videography, which is running the camera and shooting video, photography, which of course still images, basic editing on some sort of computer editing system. At my university we use Adobe Premiere. You learn media writing, and that's on all different platforms, whether it be radio, news, print, doesn't matter, you learn all different types of media writing. And then you do learn some bare minimum tech skills, but if you're interested in going into production of journalism, which is things like directing, running camera, running graphics, audio, that kind of stuff, you can go deeper into that sort of field as opposed to the content side of journalism. Personally, my journalism experience is tailored towards broadcast journalism, which is like TV news essentially. So I know a whole lot about that side of things. Don't know as much about print interested in radio types of journalism because I don't really take any classes pertaining to that, simply because it's my minor and not my major. A lot of times when you think of journalism majors, you think of two things. You think of on-air talent, and then you think of writing. First thing about that is if you're interested in being an on-air talent, whether that be on radio or reporting or an anchor, whatever it is, so is pretty much everyone else. That is a very oversaturated field. Everybody wants to be seen, everybody wants to be on camera, so that's something that you might want to consider before trying to make that your plan A. If it is what you really want to do, I definitely recommend, talking about anchoring specifically, not as much radio on air, make sure you get into a university that has a good, or at least a decent, news broadcasting club. Get on there, be an anchor, be a reporter, build up your reel so that way you have things that you can show future employers. Constantly be practicing, because that is a very competitive job. I would say that's probably the most competitive job within journalism, is anchoring or reporting. So just constantly be pushing yourself and constantly be getting as much on-air time as you possibly can. And keep everything you shoot, because you definitely want to make the highlights of everything you did in college for your reel to show employers. Now, as far as writing, if you're interested in writing for news, print, radio, whatever, writing isn't really thought of as being that difficult to a lot of people, but it's actually a lot more complicated and intricate than you're probably thinking that it is. Writing is a skill that not a lot of people have naturally, and you have to work at it. You have to constantly be writing and constantly be practicing, constantly getting critiqued, and constantly just having to get over the fact that your writing is critiqued and keep doing it again and again and again until you get better, and it will take a very long time. There's a lot of rules when it comes to news writing, and really news anything, because you're in the spotlight. Whatever product is being put out is being publicly put out there. You really have to make sure that you know exactly what you're saying and say it the right way, and so a lot of that can get into tricky territory when it comes to news writing. There's a thing called AP style, which is what journalists have to write in, especially with print. My media writing class that I took last semester was literally dictated by AP style. Whenever we were writing news stories in that class, if you made one AP style error, it was already an automatic letter grade drop, and if you made 2 AP errors, then that was automatically a C. I don't have the style book anymore because I rented it, but the AP style book, if you get it, it's constantly changing, so you have to constantly have the updated version, and 2, it's like this thick. It is just full of all the different types of things that you have to write in specific ways. And those rules are constantly have a style book so that you can look them up. Just to sort of give you an example of this, there is a certain way that you have to write a state and a city. If a city is referred to by itself, it's written one way, and if it's referred to within a state, it's written another way. Time is written in specific ways, numbers are all written specific ways, titles of people such as senator or mayor, they're all written specific ways, and the ways differ depending on the context. It's very intricate and very tedious. So that's just something that you have to pay attention to. Another thing about writing is you have to understand the consumer. You have to know that people have shorter attention spans now. They want as much information in as short of amount of time as possible. That goes for news broadcast writing, that goes for print writing, radio. People want everything in short sentences, short stories, straight into the point. And that might not seem very difficult, but it actually is when you're limited to such a short amount of space to write stuff. Headlines are basically an art of their own right now, because so many people don't even read stories, they just read a headline. Or people having to sort of clickbait with their headlines, because there's just so much media and so many different platforms trying to give out the news story, you have to make people want to click on yours. If it's a news broadcast, you have to constantly have video footage or photographs of events. That's something that you have to think about when you're writing a story. Is there other media that I can show? When you're doing newspapers, you don't want to just have a bunch of text everywhere, you want images. People want to see something other than just wall-to-wall reading. I probably spent way too much time talking about writing, so moving on to the next thing. Timeliness is crucial in journalism. All of our professors always talk about this because it's super important. Timeliness is important in pretty much any industry. You don't want to work with somebody who's constantly late or constantly missing deadlines, but it's especially important in news. There are these things called news elements, which are things like proximity, prominence, conflict, but the main one, or at least one of the main ones, are all important, but timeliness is like number one. If somebody got shot in your hometown 2 months ago. It's not gonna be the talk of the town anymore. But sadly, in such a news-filled world, in such a fast-paced world now, it can be the same as if someone got shot yesterday. Might not be a big story anymore. You should have reported on it yesterday, and if you didn't, you missed the deadline, and other people have probably already covered it. You sort of missed your window. So say you're a package reporter. A package is one of those pre-edited together little segments that they show on news. There's usually a reporter track, which is just someone speaking over the video that's playing, and there's interviews. So say you're a package reporter and you have to have your package edited and turned in by 5:55 for the 6 o'clock news. If you get back to the station pretty late and you're still editing by the time that it's 5:55 and you haven't yet turned it in, your package isn't ready. The producer has to figure out some other way to fill the time, and you're in a lot of trouble for not getting your content in on time. That package that you worked hard on that day is never gonna air. It's never gonna see the light of day. You missed your deadline, and you're gonna face consequences of that, and it could be being fired, but depending on how the market is. Same if you're on-air talent. If you're supposed to be there on desk at 5:50, and you're not there, you show up even a minute late, but you're not on desk and you're not there when the show starts, you're not there, and your co-anchor is having to read the stories, or someone else is having to read the stories. Someone else has filled in for you because you missed it. Even if you're only a minute late, it's a big deal. If you're somebody that is not really good about turning stuff in on time, or you're really bad about being tardy, or just always being late, that's something that you really need to sort of get under control, because if you want to be in the journalism field, timeliness is crucial, and you're going to have to figure out a way to make yourself be timely. Next is that networking is super, super crucial when it comes to really any field, but journalism is really reliant on that. If you have a good reel and a good resume, but so does somebody else, and there's a news channel looking to hire both of you, they can't really decide between the two of you, but you know somebody in charge at that news station. You've gotten in contact with them before, you met them at an award ceremony, or you had a professor who knew them and you got in contact with them through the professor. If somehow you have a personal connection and have somehow networked with somebody at that station, they're probably gonna be more likely to hire you as opposed to the other person who is your equal just because you knew them. I know people always say you gotta network, and it can get frustrating to hear that because, I mean, yeah, it's super easy to say you gotta network, but it's a whole lot harder to actually put that into practice and do it. But talk to your professors, especially your journalism professors. Show them that you're a good student, go the extra mile, always be on time to class, always turn in your best work, go up to them, talk to them after class. Treat them like another human being, somebody that you respect, not just a class that you have to go to for a couple hours. You never know how connected that professor might be and how they could help you get a job. And the last thing that I want to talk about is journalism is a team sport. Everything that happens in a newsroom is super, super team oriented. There are so many moving parts to get a news show going, or to get a newspaper printed out, or to get a radio show going, and everybody has to work together and pull their own weight. So you have to be good at working with other people. And a good way to figure out if you are good at that is to join a club like I talked about. And that is my biggest thing. If you take anything away from this video, it's join journalism clubs at your university. So that's just everything that I sort of have about what I think you should know before going into journalism. I hope you enjoyed this video and that it was helpful for you. If it was, you can give it a like. You can also subscribe to me. I've got new videos every single Friday. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye, guys.